name is Martha Allen, and today we're doing a cooking recipe on how to make salmon croquettes breakfast sausage. In order to make salmon croquette breakfast sausage, we must first have a can of pink salmon and also three bowls, a water bowl, a bowl to clean the salmon, and a bowl to mix the salmon. We have one diced onion, a half a cup of flour. Olive oil is what you should use to fry it in. And if you want to make breakfast sausage, you should add red pepper if you like to your taste. Uh, that makes the sausage taste more like a breakfast sausage as opposed to a salmon croquette that someone may have for dinner, unless you like your salmon croquettes hot. First thing we do, we open the can, pour off the juice, and put the salmon croquette in a bowl. You take a piece of the salmon and you clean it. And when you clean it, you want to take off the black or gray part, which is part of the skin. And once you take that off, there may be some brown parts you want to scrape uh, off of it before you clean it. And sometimes on the spine, you have to reach in and with a knife just a little bit to break off the spine, and you want to scrape that off. Once the brown, the black, the gray skin, and the spine is out, your salmon is ready to be washed. You wash the salmon in warm water. After you rinse it off, and you put it in your mixing bowl. And you repeat that again. You scrape off the skin and the brown part, which is probably blood from the salmon, and you scrape it off and till you get all of it off or most of it off to where you like it. And then you can open it up to see if there's a spine or additional brown part, and you scrape that off. And any skin you see that you do not want, just remove it with a knife. After you cleaned off the salmon with the knife, then you rinse it in the warm water. And you put it in your mixing bowl. And you repeat that process. And you can turn it over to make sure you got everything you want off of the salmon. Just scrape the salmon and then reach to the middle. Sometimes the spine might look like the skin, so you have to look really good to remove any spine. After you remove the spine, you rinse it in the warm water and put it in your bowl. When the pieces get really small, you can decide if you want to use it or not. But you repeat the same process even on small pieces if you do not want the skin and the spine and the uh, brown part in your salmon. Now you may be able to just make it from salmon that's already been cleaned, but if you buy it in the can, many times it's not already clean, and you just have to do the same to each piece of large or small salmon to clean off the skin and rinse it off and put it in the mixing bowl. Once you rinse off the rest of the salmon, what I usually do is before I throw it away, I put the part of the salmon that I no longer want back into the can, and then I put the top on it and throw it away, or put it in a plastic bag and put the top on it and throw it away. And that way, if it's in your kitchen, you don't smell the fish smell all day once you are completed cooking your salmon. Uh, if you just throw it in the garbage, even though the garbage can might be closed, you may smell the odor of the fish throughout the day. So to reduce that, I put my trimmings that I no longer want back into the can, put the top on it, and gently set it in the garbage or put it in a plastic bag. I'll get a plastic bag. This will keep the odors out of your house. I love salmon, but I don't like the after odors once I have cooked them. You tie the bag up and you throw it away. That will reduce unnecessary odors. You should have at least one egg, and you put that in your salmon, and that's to help hold the flour to the salmon to make it stick. Then you sprinkle your onions in it, your salmon, and then put it to your liking. I like a lot of onions, or onions is an option, but I like onions in my salmon patties. And if you're making it for dinner, you don't necessarily have to put the hot peppers in it. And only a sprinkle of hot peppers. You don't need a lot. If you make them for dinner, I wouldn't put the hot peppers, but if I'm making them for breakfast sausage, I add the hot peppers. Now, only add enough to garnish it sometimes once they're done. But when I'm cooking it, I just add a few sprinkles to give that breakfast sausage taste. Then I add a half cup of flour, and then I mix. It's okay if you add a little bit of oil to also help it mix and blend. So just take your flour, your fork, and just break up the salmon patties until you get your mix to a consistency of a pattern that you can put in a patty and it will stick together. You want to make sure all your mixture is mixed very well in it. Also, you can put some pepper in it if it's also to your liking. Now, black pepper I would put in whether I'm doing it for dinner or breakfast. But red pepper I would only use if I'm making the salmon croquettes for breakfast. This is a good breakfast sausage for people who may have high blood pressure or may be diabetic or cannot eat a lot of salt, because even though fish have salt in it, breakfast sausages seem to have more salt in it, as well as baking. So I found that salmon patties is a lot more healthier and have less sodium than your average breakfast sausage that you purchase pre-made out the store. So this is This is my recipe for breakfast sausage. Once you make the breakfast sausage, you can either mold them with your hand, either in large or small uh, patties. Me, myself, I prefer to use a spoon to make my patties. You could use a table spoon, a table dishing spoon size to make your patties so you won't have to put your hands on them. I don't mind, but I prefer to do it with the spoon. Now, sometimes it stick too much to the spoon, and that's why I add a little bit of olive oil, maybe two capsule full or three. You don't need much to add a little moisture to the fish to help the patties from sticking to your cookware. Um, and olive oil is a healthy oil to cook with, again, especially if you are diabetic. Now, at this one, I'm putting about 4 capsulefuls, which is equivalent to about 4 teaspoons full of olive oil to add a little moisture to it so when I make my patties, they won't stick to my utensils. Another option I have is you could use gloves if you don't like cooking gloves or plain plastic gloves to make your patties. Once you made your patties, you use a frying pan. Use a frying pan to uh, prepare to cook your patties. Now, in the frying pan, I would use a for 1 can of because you don't need a lot of oil for salmon patties. So for 1 can of salmon patties, I would use a half a cup of frying oil, which is I'm using olive oil, which is a healthy oil to use for both cooking, for your salads, for adding to your food. Olive oil is costs a little bit more in the store, but it's worth it. Um, Once you put the oil in your skillet, then you heat your skillet up for about 5 minutes. to get your to get your grease nice and hot. Now that I have my grease on the stove heating, and for about 5 minutes you don't have to have it on low fire, medium fire, but not too high, on a medium fire, and you let that heat while you make your patties. Once you make your patties, to keep them from sticking, you also could base your patties in flour, but I put quite a bit of flour in it, so I'm going to make small patties and and not add the extra flour. Uh, some people like it. I have to, because of diabetes, and I have to reduce my amount of starches. So I try to reduce the amount of flour I use in my cooking, and I also try to reduce the amount of unnecessary fatty calories in my cooking. Now, each of these patties is approximately a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, but because it piles up, then it looks like 1 teaspoon. But if you flatten the teaspoon, tablespoon. Each one of them is about 2 tablespoons. Um, but if you scoop them out, then and it piles up like a mountain, then you probably got approximately 2 tablespoons. But you can make them to the size of your liking. Uh, if you're doing it for Valentine's Day, you can get you a heart shape, and you can put the patty in the shape of a heart and then cook it, and then it will give you a heart shaped patty. Um, Otherwise, I just do a plain round shaped patty, and I take a scoop out with a tablespoon, and I make my patty with the spoon. You can shape it round, or really any shape you want, but I try to make a round shaped patty. Uh, for breakfast, I like kind of not too big, not too small shaped patties, because they're about the size of a breakfast sausage, and I can get more if I want more, or if I don't want a big patty, I don't have extra food that I have eaten on left over, and it'll be a fresh patty when I go back to get it. Uh, and if you just pat the patty around and work with it with the spoon, it'll give you a circular shape, and it'll be great. Thank you for watching. Now I will put my patties on the stove. Hi, I'm back with the finished product on how to make salmon croquettes. After you fry them in a skillet and they become golden brown or to your liking, then just scoop them out and put them on the breakfast plate. You can use additional seasoning with the hot sauce, or you can use additional seasoning with the cayenne pepper or red pepper by just sprinkling it on top of your salmon croquette. And since this one is small, these are kind of small, I'll put an extra one on this particular plate. If you like extra, you might not want more, just sprinkle a little on your salmon croquette. And if you like hot sauce, I like mine with hot sauce sometimes. So I just use the hot sauce to add extra flavor and seasoning. And I don't use a lot. I just sprinkle a little bit on the salmon croquettes for a great taste. Uh, Thank you for watching my Simon Croquettes breakfast sausage for people with high blood pressure or diabetes. You can also check with your doctor to find out if this is a good recipe or meal for you. Thank you, Martha out.